Hi everyone out there. So today I wanted to go through this video, and this is his name Richard J. Murphy. He's a professor of economics. He has a very interesting YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description. I think you should really listen to him. I think says very correct things. He has an interview in which he talks about a new tax that they are doing in UK for inheritance of agricultural land. And basically, it's a huge tax loophole for inheritance, in which in UK basically you can transfer unlimited amount of money, and they want to close a loophole because, of course, that's if you need to transfer 16 billion euros or whatever, you can do it tax free, and that doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. However, those who oppose it obviously are trying to stop it or change it. I don't know if it passed or not, based on the fact that it's somehow unfair for the farmers. And in fact, what's happened is that because of this loophole, lots of land has been bought, increasing the value of the land, which has stopped new farmers from coming into the market. Now farming is basically an inheritance, so it's a legacy. If you are basically a noble person with lots of land or a small farmer that from a few hundred years ago, then if your family is from a few hundred years ago, then you can do it. Otherwise, not possible. And sometimes small farmers don't make a lot of money. They are struggling, and while unreasonably the land's worth a lot of money, so they could just sell the land off and live off that for many generations. But so this is a discussion here. Sky News is, I think you can say, right wing, so it's of course against this thingy. And the two people talking here are one farmer, small farmer from what I understand, and the other one is a large landowner, so novelty, land family for hundreds of generations renting land. I mean, they have actually absolutely nothing in common, but they're portrayed as somehow being, together allies, but in reality, no, that's not a reality. Anyway, what I would like to notice in this talk is how Richard Murphy, I love his videos. He's very smart person, but I think he really fails at communicating what the problem is. He's a professor. He follows long, complex chain thoughts, which I personally love, but most people don't. And I think that makes it come through as not likable. So what I'll show in a few cases, I think especially in one case, he should really have used questions. This here is very often question drive the interview, drive the sense of what is important. Yeah, but you remember when Trump people used to say, what about that? What about this? Yeah, what about it? Doesn't matter. That's not relevant. But it makes you feel, it distracts you from what's the point, distracts you from the flow of thought, and confuses you. So let's listen to that and see where he could have asked some questions that would have really changed the way he presents himself and the whole tone of the conversation.
University Management School. Richard, you were shaking your head there to what Victoria had to say. There are an estimated 13,000 farmers in Whitehall today and their supporters. Are they right to be so concerned?
Well, I think I'm afraid to say they really are deeply misinformed. The first thing is that, in fact, we're talking about £3 million of relief being available to farmers, and that's not even true, because the true figure is £5 million, because farmers are also able to claim business property relief as well as agricultural property relief. So the figures that we were hearing earlier on from somebody who was saying, well, let's include the cattle, let's include the crops, let's include the feed, let's include the equipment, all that is subject to another million for each person on top of that. And by the way, your organisation says that on their website, Victoria. So let's not beat around the bush here.
It's included.
You agree with that?
The BPR is included. It's not a separate allowance. It's included in the same allowance.
No, it isn't. It's an additional allowance, and you say so on your own website. So
and of course,
I've checked with the revenue manual. Now let's move on from that, because they are separate.
So here he say that you say so, but what does it mean? Is she lying? She's not lying. So this is something that's sometimes important to do. No, you're lying. That's not the truth. If you're lying, you don't know what you're talking about.
separate reliefs. One is on agricultural property, one is on business property. But the figures are reliable, and the figures are not from 1 year. The figures have come over a long period of time. But let's just stand back a minute and let's just talk about the reality of this, shall we? And let's just do some simple economics. The fact is that over the last 20 years, the price of agricultural land has skyrocketed. And I've known the price of agricultural land for nearly 50 years because I've been an East Anglian for a very long time and first prepared farm accounts when I was quite young in the 1970s, when land was going for next to nothing.
Okay, and this little grandpa story, in a way, is very nice, but the other perspective, it gives you 30 seconds to distract you from what is actually important. And so many people lost the train of thought and they don't know what he's talking about.
And now it's going for over £10,000 an acre here. In Northern Ireland, it's £16,000 an acre, but admittedly, farms there are much smaller. The fact of the matter is, however, that we have not got data to prove that more than 400 or 500 farms a year are claiming agricultural property relief. And this has been going back over several years, and the people who are buying farms
Richard,
now
can I just
are
interrupt
the
there,
likes of
because-
Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah,
so we
Richard-
are actually simply subsidising farms. Can I just make the obvious point? Nobody has to be a farmer. Nobody asks anyone to be a farmer. And anybody who's a farmer who doesn't like this can sell up and make over £100,000 a
All right,
year.
I'm going to put that to Jacob.
Okay, and this is the point where I think it could be much more powerful to ask a question. I don't know why this also for me sits badly. Seems as a natural thing to want to be a farmer. So maybe in different cultures it feels different, but want to be a farmer, maybe because of how we are grown up, the idea of this like bucolic idea of farming, seems something very positive, and kind of throwing in your face that you don't have to be a farmer doesn't feel good. I don't understand exactly why, but it doesn't feel very good to me. It doesn't feel very good to others, I think. And you can see from the reaction of the other people. So, but there's a much more interesting way to approach this. Rather than having said that, he could have asked the guy, look, and the guy says, he's going here, he makes 20,000 euros. Wouldn't you be happier making 100,000 euros a year? Makes sense. The guy was going to say yes. Okay, then you are sitting right now on 5 million euros. No, if you sell this, you can easily make that money back. And if you want a farm that's very fair, you can go and do it even for fun. Go to work with some farm. I'm sure there are tons of other farmers that will gladly take your help, and pay you the 20,000 you're making now. So you're making 20,000 euros a year farming, plus the 100,000 euros on rent that you get from the money you actually have. And ask him, wouldn't that be a lot better than what you're doing right now? You can farm and you can do that.
Put that to Jacob. Jacob, you don't have to be a farmer. You can do something else.
And you see, she obviously is, using, again, she's using the question. And now she's using the claim, but saying such an arrogant way that makes it sound very bad. Richard doesn't sound particularly humble in the way he speaks, but doesn't sound like this way, So she's really manipulating the situation.
Perfectly acceptable that every farmer could go and do something else, but then who's going to feed the nation? It's as simple as that.
Who's going to feed the nation, Richard?
Nobody's going to get into a business to earn nothing.
No, this is another nonsense argument, because in fact, what we're finding is that agricultural land is worth a lot of money because people are buying it. And when they buy it to claim agricultural property relief for inheritance tax purposes, they have to farm it. Nobody has ever bought a farm and left it to sit aside, unless, of course, they are claiming set aside and rewilding.
Could I leave?
And that's, again, this claim that who is going to feed the nation. It seems such a positive, kind gesture kind of claim. Okay, we are doing not even for ourselves. We're sacrificing ourselves for your well-being. Well, in reality, that's not true. But the fact that he analyzed in such a detailed way, making it seem detached from reality. So I really don't know. I don't know this topic well enough to turn that into some kind of question. But here this way, he should have really focused on something else. All his points are correct, but they just come out as a little bit arrogant in the way he speaks, even if he's totally right. But somehow he's detached from the positive topos that we have in our society, and these ones are those we are emotionally attached with. So he used logical speech to talk about when the other side is using emotional arguments. and the emotional often wins, even if you're very logical. I mean, most people are not very logical. If you're very logical, you can get through it, but if not, then you're gonna feel just a little bit uncomfortable about this guy who you don't really understand. So you don't really know what he talks, and he's talking down to somebody who, you know, he's being portrayed as somehow sacrificing himself for you, living this harsh life of misery, although he's sitting over, millions of pounds of money, earning nothing every month for you, and he's saying, no, the guy is an idiot. Of course, doesn't feel so well. So let's listen a bit more, and then I think that's it.
Okay, you can be true. Let's let Victoria come in this, because you are making a lot of points. Let's let her respond to something. Victoria,
I think so. I mean, I'm kind of dying of boredom there a bit, Richard, because the fact is that you once did a few farm accounts 35 years ago. You don't do what Richard does. You don't get up every morning, put on your wellies with your waterproofs attached to that. Oh, sorry, Jacob. And you're very happy to opine on a kind of a theory of farming and a theory of agricultural economics, which is your view. And judging by your age, probably the same as mine, it's a clear kind of Marxist view of economics. Let's smash it to pieces.
I'm not a Marxist.
And he could have, I don't know if he knew who one was, he could have approached this one a little bit differently.
And once you've smashed it to pieces, I think his farm is not worth smashing just so that you can try and prove your theory. That is not the way to cope with the problems. Actually, I've read your article with great interest, and I too think that there are deep-seated problems within agriculture. But killing off farming from the top down is not the answer. And so everybody protesting today was right to be there. And on their behalf, I would like to say that we resent the condescending tones that are coming from government about Jacob and me and all of the people like us just not really understanding the figures.
Richard, can I ask you, is this the right way for the government to go about things?
So I see how she basically, what she did is that she attacked him personally and he defended himself, which means somehow make some people feel like somehow this has some merit. But also she made a very, just say, you don't know what their work. Although we are not talking about the work of farming, we are talking about the finances of farming, which is extremely different. At the same time, something we have said is like, you don't know their work either because you don't do it. You charge rent to these people. You are part of the problem that you extract value from the actual farmers doing the work, where they should own the farm. If the land was cheaper, they could have bought for you and they could have earned more money. So you are part of the problem. And of course, coming up with that thing, takes a lot of practice and preparation. And I don't know if he did, and he doesn't have to do it, but that's interesting. But let's keep listening how she frames different things with questions.
It's because everyone will know tax is confusing to the mere mortal. You are an expert. That's why people come to accountants to help them sort it out. This is a confusing picture for farmers, which is why they have come to Whitehall. You can forgive them perhaps for feeling stressed and anxious, because on one hand, they are facing this inheritance tax change. On the other, the government is saying, with a bit of planning, it doesn't have to be this way. Plan ahead, use all the relief schemes, all the different mechanisms available to you, and you can avoid this. Can you understand why farmers are feeling anxious and confused? It doesn't have to be this way. The government could have done this another way, could they not have? If they want to close a tax hole, and as you said, the wealthy people buying up the land and pricing out farmers, generations of farmers.
Let me be clear. Young farmers should be delighted about this change in inheritance tax because it is going to push down the price of agricultural land considerably. Therefore, there will be a lot of new entrants into farming, which will considerably expand the stock of farmers in this country, which will improve our agricultural supply enormously. This is liberating for farming, which is at the moment constrained by being in too few hands, particularly the hands of the very wealthy.
Okay, that would have been perfect to ask, wouldn't it be better for you to have more land? All of this very nice speeches he made would have been delivered a lot better if he had asked the question to the guy. So here the point of this conversation is, the guy in the green shirt. He is, in a way the so-called martyr, and this woman really feels like the leech on his shoulder. But as he asked that, then I said, okay, then how, if we can, this will help reduce the value of your land, you can get more land, no? And then you can earn more money and you have a better life. Instead, he drove with a speech, which feels so detached and is not extremely easy to follow. Anyway, let's keep listening a little bit.
Hey, I'm going to put that to Jacob. I'm going to put that to Jacob because I want Jacob to respond to this. Jacob, Richard is saying that this measure by the government, this inheritance tax change, is actually helping you. It's going to make it less attractive as an investment for wealthy people to avoid tax. Farmland would decrease in value. There would be more of it available and farmers could expand. New farmers could enter the business. This is good for you.
Yeah, well, it's very good for someone in an office to say that. But when you've got young people that are in farming that are making at most 20 grand a year, at the very most, how, even if land prices came down to £1,000 an acre, how are they going to expand when not only over 10 years when their father or grandfather dies, they've got to pay this inheritance tax bill, but how are they supposed to then buy more land? It doesn't correlate.
Richard, can you explain that for us, perhaps?
But look, I dealt with this on the blog post and the videos that I've made today, which have been viewed by a lot of people. And what I explained was that the problem that you're then explaining, which is entirely reasonable, that farmers aren't making enough money, has to be addressed in a different way. We need price support for farmers. We need to...
Okay, again. So you see, he didn't answer the question that she said, the guy in the green shirt. He answered a little bit later, no? But... and that led him to, again, to the fact that the problem in farming is not, you know, the per se the value of the land. And again, the way you should have it done, first of all, it will be very hard for the guy in the green shirt to just say, yeah, whatever, you're right, you know, and I'm wrong. Especially in this, he went there, you know, to be the big team. That's his role here. He will never change, you know, his position. And in fact, he didn't really answer directly with the no to the woman. So he was trying to avoid the question because probably he realized that he's not necessarily in the right position. But rather than he telling him, than Richard telling the guy, look, this is a problem, had he asked him again, so wouldn't it be better, you know, that you earn more money when you make, you know, this, when you sell your products? Isn't that a fundamental unfairness? So if that's fundamental unfairness, why are we worrying about this? Let's fight for what's important. This is not important. This will reduce the value of the land. If your value of the land is reduced, then you're actually not going to pay inheritance tax. So this is a known problem. But he fails to approach the person in a way which is, I mean, what they call curiosity. Curiosity doesn't need to be because you actually are curious. It's just a way of using, you know, your words to communicate, but not in a speech form, but rather like helping others tell them what you want to communicate. Anyway, I'll put the link of this video for anybody else who wants to watch it. And if you, whoever got here, thanks for listening.